So when I hit the ground, I shattered both of my heels instantly. The medication turned from a medication to a necessity. I was stealing from people. I was living out of trap houses. I looked at myself one day in the mirror and I couldn't recognize myself. My name is Logan. I was born and raised in Glendale, Arizona. My dad was an over-the-road truck driver and my mother stayed home and did the best to take care of me and my sister. We grew up in a pretty good home for what we thought. You know, from the outside, we were taken care of, our needs were met financially, but my father was mostly, you know, not present in the home. He spent a lot of time on the road truck driving. He was a long-haul furniture mover. So I come from, you know, a family of hard-working men that work with their hands. He really instilled in me, like really all he taught me was to work hard. So my mother was a baby Christian at the time, and she was doing the best she could to just keep us alive. You know, she didn't have the support of a man, and I didn't have the guidance of a father that I needed. So at a young age, I started to experience misdirection. I didn't have guidance. So that kind of caused me confusion and fear. I started to develop a lot of anger just because I was seeing other boys at school, their fathers really invested in their life and their time. You know, at sports, you know, they were on the sidelines giving their sons tips, you know, and I was just kind of left to figure it out on my own with my mother. And she was trying to mother and father me at the same time. So I grew up doing all kinds of, you know, crazy stunts with my friends, jumping off of roofs. I loved, you know, to get that adrenaline rush off of dangerous things, just to feel some kind of void in myself. I was always looking for that validation that I never received when I was a child from my father, and again, very, very angry. By the time I was 15, I was experimenting with pain pills. This is where it all kind of manifested in me. It wasn't a very active addiction at that point. It was at a party that I was at when I was very young. I went into the bathroom and my friend said, "Hey, let's try some of these pills my mom has." I took a couple and instantly felt that warm validation that, you know, I was missing out on as a child. From that moment, when I ever experienced any kind of pain from father wounds, I would instantly want to go back to that drug. Percocet was what made me feel close, it made me feel accepted, and it gave me validation that I needed. When it got really bad, I was actually 17 years old, I ditched school, and I went up to Sedona to jump off the cliffs into Grasshopper Point. Now, there's a little platform there that everyone was jumping off of, but you know, me trying to impress everybody and get the validation again from friends, you know, from anyone really, I decided to jump from about 50 feet. So when I hit the ground, I shattered both of my heels instantly. I went into shock and passed out. I woke up being carried up the mountain by EMTs, and they were rubbing their, you know, hands on my chest trying to keep me awake. You know, I was out cold again, woke up in the hospital. Went through several surgeries. I went through months and months and months of physical therapy, lots of months in the wheelchair, and really it ruined a lot of my high school opportunities. You know, I was a natural born athlete, and all of that, you know, was gone at that point. From that accident, I was prescribed every single pain medication that's out there. And even after I was walking, they were still prescribing me those drugs. The medication turned from a medication to a necessity. At the time, I was really active in music. I mean, I've always been really active in music, and I got an opportunity to go on tour with a death metal band. Now, I was the singer of that band, and we traveled extensively. So the drug use just kind of got worse from there. I started smoking a lot of weed and drinking all the time, and any chance I could do any sort of, any other drug in the world, I was going for that. At that time, I was actively touring, and we were on and off the road, and we weren't home long enough to barely unpack. So we had a little bit of a break on one of the tours, and I met my now ex-wife. I fell in love with her, but my addiction, you take you wherever you go. So I took that into a marriage. I fell in love with her. I got married in 2012, and the drug use basically stopped while I was in that relationship, because I replaced the drug with a relationship. At that point, I was discontent. I was complacent with our relationship, so I thought we needed to have a kid. So I got her pregnant, and we had our firstborn son in 2014, and his name is Cash Roman. He's the love of my life. I love him so much. When we had him, again, I replaced that feeling with a child, and everything was good, for a time, until it gets hard. Babies are very difficult, and since I never knew how to be a father, or I was never modeled how to be, a father, everything that he was absent on, I was absent on. I didn't provide that woman with any spiritual guidance. I wasn't a leader in the home, so that just trickles down to my children now. So now I'm completely addicted to a drug that I can't get off of. I'm keeping it secret from my wife. I'm doing it at work as a CDL truck driver. I'm getting high and driving around town, potentially putting multiple lives in danger. And it just got worse and worse from there. Again, it just progressed, and the drugs changed. I was doing Oxycontins, I was doing Percocets, I was doing Dilaudid, fentanyl before it was pill form, and I had lost my mind. And again, discontent, complacent, and I was just so miserable. So what did Logan do again? He had another kid. Like a little over a year later, I had Sawyer. She's my middle daughter. She's currently 7, and I love her so much. She brings so much passion and beauty to my life. The love that she gives me is undescribable. So after having Sawyer, again, now it's 2 kids. Now it's double the what my wife needs. She needed a helper, she needed a friend, and I again disowned her. I would leave her at the dinner table, waiting for me to come home. I would block her calls when she called me to wonder where I was at. I would disable find friends and lie to her about where I was at. Every step of that marriage was complete hate, because love is an action word. I can say I love you all I want, but at the end of the day, if that love word is not backed by action, you're actually showing your family that you hate them. And I was showing them that daily. The way I talked to her, the way I conducted myself, the way I reacted to problems, and it was more of a reaction than a response. It was not a thought out response whatsoever. And I destroyed that woman. Again, discontent, complacent once again, and it seems like every time she would try to escape, I would get her pregnant. So in 2018 we had Capri, and Capri is my baby, and she is my heart. So after Capri, the same process just keeps happening over and over again, and it's just so insane that I just kept thinking that another kid was going to get me out of this addiction, and that it was going to snap me out of it, that having another child and now having 3 kids was going to make it any better. This is where it all kind of comes to a head and where the action starts. So calling my wife to tell her that I was involved in a severe DUI incident in a CDL truck was enough for her to say, okay, this is it now. She still, would let me home, but now I'm out of work, so now I'm sitting home all day, just getting high, just being miserable, and she had no idea what to do. So she came to me and she said, You need to do something about this or I'm going to leave you for sure. So again, to make her happy, not to do it for me or my kids, I put myself into treatment. While I was there, I wanted to leave. I didn't care about any of it, and the only thing I could think about was smoking a bowl and drinking a Budweiser. And I was obsessed with this thought constantly of grilling, drinking a beer, and smoking some weed. And that's all I was concerned with the whole time I was in treatment. I didn't learn a thing. And then COVID happens while I'm in treatment, and they pretty much shut all recovery down and sent me packing. I got a job at a warehouse loading trucks and started using again. Started not showing up. I was lying about where I was at. I was pulling into work, calling in, falling asleep in the car the whole shift, and then coming home and lying about that I had worked all day. It was lie after lie after lie, and my life turned into a lie. Once again, she found out, and then I started using meth on top of it. So not only was I doing fentanyl, but I was doing meth as well. And that drug took me to the deepest, darkest pits of addiction that I have ever seen. Now at that point, I was living out of my car. I was stealing from people. I was living out of trap houses. I was totally not me. And I changed into a monster. And I looked at myself one day in the mirror and I couldn't recognize myself. And what followed is the consequences of my actions. I lost the love of my life. I lost my children. I lost my ability to play music. Music is my heartbeat, and it's how I connect with God. And I was completely shut out from His Spirit, and I was alone. Even my own mother wouldn't talk to me at the capacity that I needed. I ended up getting in a fight with my dad, hitting him, going to jail. And I was still making excuses. If only he, if only she, if only you, if only this, screw this. And I was so angry at everybody else, and I never looked internally. I never looked inside of myself to see what I might have contributed to all of the situations that I had made happen. I got to a point where I was sitting in my car, smoking meth and snorting fentanyl, line after line after line, crying out to God, asking Him why I had decided to do this with my life. And in that moment, He spoke to me. And he told me, you're mine, and you need rest. You need to get help. So it was at that moment where I told myself, all right, dude, we're gonna do this, but this time we're gonna do it for you. We're gonna do it for your kids, because if you can't do it for you, you can't be there for your kids. You can't support anyone if you can't support yourself. So this time was different. Went back to Crossroads. I was serious. I didn't make any friends there. And I was on my knees every night, talking to God, asking Him why it is the way that I act. Why do I decide to run to drugs and alcohol to solve a problem? What is wrong with me internally? And I was crying out to Him, trying to figure out what was wrong with me. And through prayer and guidance and meditation with my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, I came back. I killed it at the facility. I became a BHT, which is a behavioral health facility technician, and I started to serve others before myself. At the time, I was about 5 or 6 payments behind on my car. Don't even know how they didn't come and find it. All my bank accounts across the board were negative. I now had lost my CDL, so I didn't have a way to provide for myself or my family, and I had no idea what I was going to do for work. But I was happy for the first time in my entire life. I was so happy, and I had absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. I mean, in the sense that I had no physical things. My car was at risk of being taken. I barely had any clothes. But God, God showed up in my life and proved that He's real to me. It was the first time I had shown my family love, even though they weren't speaking to me. I was showing my ex-wife love, even though, you know, it's a different kind of love. It's a respect now. And I got a chance to be a father again. I started rebuilding my relationships with my children while I was in the treatment facility. And I broke free. You know, my spirit started to run wild. Music's back in my life now. My kids are back in my life now. I have financial security now that's building. Everything is working the way it needs to be. I'm living life on life's terms finally.